Hello, and welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoons, the weekly podcast that revisits, reviews, and ridicules the world's weirdest animated series. I am your co-host, Sean Paul Ellis, and joining me today, we have Dave Trumbore. Dave, how's it going?
It's going great, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing very, very well, thank you. We happen to have two guests that are joining us today. Now, we have been talking Canadian cartoons for the entire month, and we have been hinting at the idea of bringing on some of our Canadian friends to talk about some of these shows and help us actually understand what we watched and possibly some of the cultural relevance that they have from watching these as children and the nostalgia that's associated with it. So I'd like to welcome today, first and foremost, we have two artists and performers, Carson, Gale.
Hello, nice to meet you.
And we have Pete DeCourcy.
Hey, thanks so much for having us.
Oh, man. So what is going on with these Canadian cartoons? I'm kidding. That's like the most open-ended question to start with.
Yeah, get us on our guard.
Yeah.
So that we can then, it's like, we're just defending these now.
So we talked 4 cartoons. Mm-hmm. All right. So Dave, we did the Raccoons, which I will still always call the Raccoons.
Let's start with that. How do you guys pronounce that show title?
Raccoons.
No, I pronounce it Raccoons.
Oh, we got a fight already.
You're from a higher tax bracket than I am.
Yeah, stay on your side of the tracks.
Because, Raccoons. Raccoons is something I've been saying this week because you were like, what's the deal with raccoons? I was like, yeah, that's how it's pronounced. But it's...
All right, once and for all, it's Raccoons.
Yeah, Raccoons.
See,
yeah.
that's how I've been saying it. Yeah, Raccoon.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
No, it's. I mean, I would pronounce it raccoon, but that's just Canadian for raccoon.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. So then the second question comes up is that how do you actually pronounce Crash Canyon? Because that's been hotly contested as well.
I mean, that's one of the long-running Canadian comedy series. Obviously, people are passionate about it. It's very, very good. I don't think
longest running is it went for 2 years, right?
2 years,
from 2011 to 2013, and then. So so you're telling me, and what I'm gathering is that Canadian television really doesn't go beyond one season.
Not really, no.
Wow.
Yeah, we don't support our own. Truthfully.
No, seriously, nobody figured out how to make Canadian content make money.
Yeah.
So they're just like, we have this amazing idea, and then they go out and make it, and they make it on like the worst budget, and then it's not good, and then nobody wants to watch it, and they're like, well, let's just buy another American show.
Yeah. That's
legit how it goes.
Wow.
And the shows that do last a long time, it tends to have a very niche. Like it's just like there's someone who's just so passionate about it that they're like, oh, we'll keep going for 8 seasons, like Mr. D. Like I still have no idea why it's around. It has a very unlikable lead. There's like one character where I'm like, oh, he's great, and the supporting cast is fantastic, but it focuses so much on the main character that you're like, this could have been a really good show. But you just got to get rid of this main guy.
Yeah, I can't think of any parallels that would have to American television.
Yeah,
I'm kidding. I could think of hundreds of shows.
I kind of want to know about Mr. D. Is that what you said?
It's not a cartoon. It's just a bad comedy.
Oh, got it.
Yeah,
it's based on Jerry D.
Jerry D, who's a very good stand-up comic, but
he does a lot of like, I used to be a teacher, and kids say the weirdest things.
Yeah. And now he's actually hosting in Canada, like kids say the darndest things.
So he's like your Bill Cosby.
I hope.
I'm gonna say right now. I'm gonna say right now. Watch out.
Yeah.
Just be very careful with that one.
Well, he does. Yeah, our Canadian Jello. He's the one that sells it too.
A Canadian Kodak film too.
Yeah. We just got it.
So the other 2 cartoons that we have that are kind of rounding out before we really dig into each one of these, we have Tripping the Rift, which I know that I know Carson definitely watched at some point when he was younger, and then we also have Monster by Mistake, which I know that from the laughter on this end, I know that you have both kind of talked about this. And so first and foremost, I want to go back to, and I know that I'm going to say this incorrectly, or I'm going to say this in a very bougie way, according to what we've just what we now understand about Canadian Canadian money. Is the Raccoons. And so kind of wanted to get your idea. Pete, I know that you rewatched some of the Raccoons.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to give context to the Raccoons.
You're forcing it, dude. It's
I know.
Raccoon.
It's
Just
Raccoon.
say it how you naturally want to say it.
No, I'm hiding my bouginess.
Bourgeois.
I don't want people to know how rich I am.
Okay, what were you gonna say?
Okay, so that Raccoons was a prime time cartoon.
Right.
Like, it wasn't played in the mornings. It was played at 7 o'clock or 7:30. Yeah, sorry. It was played at 7 o'clock or 7:30 on a Sunday night. So it was like there was like a Disney movie that would play, then it was the Raccoons, and then it was Road to Avonlea, which is like an Anne of Green Gables type show.
Sure.
So I, as a kid, thought that this meant that it was a adult cartoon, and it had like a very pulsing, hip, techno, kind of like new wave synth theme song called "Run With Us."
You're right.
Which, if you guys can find, it's honestly it has not aged well, but it would not. It's very interesting to listen to. So I always was under the impression that this was like a cartoon for grown-ups that was about like environmental issues. And there was like a weird, like, two raccoons were married and one of them had a scarf.
Wait, scarves are weird for you in Canada?
He just seemed there was something about it's not Bert, it's the other one. I was just like, what's his deal? He seems too rich, to be living in the forest. He should be next to Cyril Sneer.
Okay, so good points. Let me dig down into one
Sure.
of them. You mentioned about the environmental issues.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are there any particular episodes? Because the episodes that we watched, one of them had a particular environmental emphasis,
Right?
But sort of in the way that I would think of like maybe a contemporary that discussed environmental issues, like Captain Planet. Captain Planet at least kind of gave you at the end
A moral.
like a moral
Yeah.
or an idea of like you can do this
Mm-hmm.
with implications of benefiting the Earth.
Right.
The Raccoons was just like blackout.
Yeah.
they never actually discussed anything.
So almost every single episode of the Raccoons involves Cyril Sneer trying to cut down trees.
Sure.
That's his motivation, is he likes money, and that he gets it by cutting down trees. So, like, literally, like, it was just like, oh, the bad guy's cutting down trees, maybe we shouldn't. That was like the environmental message.
Now, I have a question related to the Sneer family.
Yeah.
When you watched this initially,
Mm-hmm.
what did you think these creatures were?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I mean, I guess now I think it's like, oh, they're anteaters?
They're aardvarks.
Whoa. So this is a comment on Arthur?
Yeah, it must be a takedown of Arthur.
Yeah, oh man, the shade.
Those damn aardvarks got
Damn
too
aardvarks.
educated.
When
They started a global coronation.
Later seasons when they really take down Cal U.
Yeah.
It is a sweep the leg
Children
Johnny
should
situation.
have hair. Yeah, I don't. It's the weirdest thing. I feel it was weird watching it because, again, like, I thought that it was like this very environmental pro thing, but like the first episode was not about that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's weird to watch it just because I have these warm memories of like hearing the theme song and running down, being like, oh, I'm gonna watch this, and now.
So you heard "Run with Us" and you actually ran.
I actually ran.
You
yeah,
actually
I
ran down to watch it.
Yeah.
Well, I can say so. I do a decent amount of like voiceover stuff in Canada, and of the I want to say explanation behind how things may get like an environmental slant to it. I can just see somebody pitching this thing, being like, "It's a bunch of raccoons. They're crazy. There's this weird dude in the whatever." They explain the show concept in whatever way they try, but then some executive being like, "Well, it's the mid '90s whenever this came out,
Right.
and every show has to have a message.
A message. Yeah.
What is the message?" And then being like, "It doesn't have one. It's a bunch of raccoons being crazy." And then they're like, "What is the message?" And then they're being like, "I don't know, environmentalism."
Right.
And then they're like, "Great, put that in. We're gonna greenlight this now."
Because it did run on CBC, which is our Canadian National Broadcast Association. So it does seem like they probably were like, shove a message in there.
Okay.
One real quick
man.
question then for you guys, because you mentioned that it was a primetime cartoon.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you had like normal Saturday morning cartoons, just like we did here in like the
100%.
90s. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just one of those things where it was like that, maybe The Simpsons. So it's like, oh.
Well, The Simpsons had a runtime that was like 4 o'clock and
Yeah.
like 4:45, and then like another one at like 7 and like 9:30. They were
not,
on all day.
But not when it started, Carson. When it started, it was like just Sundays.
Well, no one's as old as you are, Pete.
Oh, yeah,
no one
yeah.
saw that at the beginning.
As I'm
of time.
47. And let me tell you something. The war was hell.
47.
47.
It could have been the Gulf War.
That's like when you ask like a 2-year-old, you're like, how old is your babysitter? She's like, oh, $1 million.
I have no concept of age.
Oh man. All right. Any final thoughts or questions about the Raccoons?
No.
Didn't see it.
I do want to say, like, can we track down the guy who did Cyril Sneer's voice? Because
I bet you I could.
yeah,
I bet you I could.
I'm sure you like work with him on a regular
Yeah,
basis.
he's like my dad.
Yeah. Yeah, Carson lives on that raccoon money.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
The house I grew up in.
It's all trees. It's like, I gotta stay in character.
Sometimes I just I go through my Scrooge McDuck money pool, but instead it's just pine cones.
Yeah.
And maple leaves.
Yeah.
And just sweet maple syrup.
Oh, yeah.
So sticky.
Love it. So we're going to move on to Crash Canyon right now.
Okay.
And this is exciting for us because you guys have a big reveal about Crash Canyon for us.
Ooh, that's a good
Kinda-
teaser. I'm going to pause you right there real quick just for a little fact check. So Michael McGee did the voice of Cyril Sneer, and you're going to have a tough time tracking him down because he passed away in 2011. Bringing the show down since
Did the
2012.
show go from 2011 to 2013?
No, this is...
That was Crash Canyon.
That's Crash Canyon.
Oh.
That would be amazing.
Okay.
Yeah.
They recorded 2 years worth of
all
cartoon, and then he died.
All right, cool. Jump into Crash Canyon. Just want to get that across.
All right. So we're going to transition now to Crash Canyon because you guys kind of have a big reveal about this that we're hoping could potentially be guests later on in the show regarding Crash Canyon. So please, Pete.
Well, we know some of the people that wrote for it just through the comedy community. We're not like best friends with them or anything, but it's like Pat Thornton, who's an amazing comedian, Lori Elliott, who was like on this show called Video and Trial. So she was also great, and I think Fraser Young was another one. And they're all like really, really good comedians, and they're fantastic writers, and they've all done amazing things.
I can't wait to ask them what happened during this show.
I am also very curious. I only watched one episode because I'd never heard of it before. You texted me and was like, "Hey, what's Crash Canyon?" And I was like, "I don't know."
I also I read his text with so much like emphasis. Hey, what's Crash Canyon?
Oh yeah.
I'm
always like getting sassy messages.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh okay. Yeah. I guess I will meet you at the airport.
Yeah.
Sure.
No, so this is so you rewatched it.
Yeah,
because of the conversation that we
Yeah.
had. And so what were some of your initial impressions?
One is like they were trying to, even down to the art style is very Family Guy.
Yes.
And it's like they were like, this seems easy enough, guys. Let's just do that. But nothing works. Every single character is unlikable or annoying. The jokes fall flat. Or they're trying way too hard that they almost miss the point. It's so bizarre.
Were there any particular moments in the show that when they were trying to do a setup and a punchline that you realized, oh no, this is going to go horribly wrong. Please don't do this. You did this. Please cut away. And they're like, nope.
Anything involving the fat cousin.
Right.
I was just like, we get it. We get it. And I almost was like, they're like, what's all the worst stuff we can say about America in like one character? But he's also from Saskatchewan or whatever. Like, it was just...
Is that a thing where people from Saskatchewan don't like
No.
the United States?
No, that whole character just seemed like, it was like, we took all the ugly American stereotypes and we're like, no, we'll just shove it in this guy.
No, I would say arguably like anybody in the central Canada loves America more because
we love
like
America.
all their jobs in like industry depend on like selling oil or trees to you.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like they're like happy for you
Yeah,
guys.
Zero Sneer is like a major import.
So you mentioned the worst thing that you could possibly say about Americans.
Right.
What is the worst thing that you could say? Because this joke or this show and all of the jokes that are included in it tend to try to be like unbelievably crass, but they're not funny in any way. And so what could they have said about Americans or about American culture or commentary? Like, what's the biting thing that Canadians are just like, oh, those Americans, eh?
All right, first off, I want to make this very clear. I love America. I come here numerous times a year, and we love you all. And
Excuse me, Mr. Border Agent.
Yeah, Mr. Border Agent.
This.
Yeah.
We'd like to come back.
CBP's just like, we're listening to this episode.
We know. But it's the idea like you guys are all fat. You're all like just like I need to get to the front of the line. I'm an American, sir. And that you're entitled and you're racist and you're terrible and like it's that kind of stereotype which was like put into this one character, and everything he did I was just like I know you think you're being like not even like you're not even being funny, you're just like saying horrid stuff thinking that that's gonna make you like the fan favorite character, you know?
I would have actually liked that character more if he was like some weird American cousin or something like
exactly,
that. Like at least make that commentary. Don't just half-ass it. Like go full on that if you're gonna do that. It still wasn't funny, but at least like then it's not just like a cousin from the sticks or something like that. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. It was just honestly it was a very bizarre show.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember the show The Oblongs?
Yeah, of course.
Which was like, I really liked that show.
Yeah.
And I felt like they were like, oh, well, we'll just try to get like that weird humor in here of The Oblongs, but it just never worked. And I'm wondering if it was just like a thing of like these censors coming in and being like, well, you can do half of this, but the other half doesn't work. And you're like, yeah, but that validates this show.
Right.
Yeah. We also said it had
the setup.
Yeah. We said it had it had a decent setup. It was like, a Land of the Lost kind of thing or something that it could have been a decent setup. But then even just from like a storytelling point of view, they just crammed like 25 characters in your face in that first episode and then expected you to not only differentiate them, but like have some sort of interaction with them. So even from a storytelling point, it was just a mess.
I would argue that it's actually a bad setup. I know you guys like the concept of it, but just from like a performance, like storytelling way, you have to platform where you're coming from before you then change it to see how these characters react to it. And from what I understand, they fall in the canyon from the beginning, right? That's like how it starts.
There's a bit of like a trip thing, and you do see the dynamic. Like basically, the dad tries really hard. The mom is very checked out.
Yeah, she's very angry.
And one of the reasons that like Family Guy, Simpsons all work is because they have this like central place they come back to, the house, the regular family life. But every episode you see, something crazy takes them out of it, and then they go through their hero's journey.
Right.
And then come like back to like their home place. But if you start in a Lost area, now you're not doing that kind of like sitcom feel. You're doing a weird something else, like Lost.
Sure.
Right. I just want to get back to where you talked about the mom. The fact that the mom hated the one character, everyone hates the dad in it. And so it's like no one has any redeemable qualities. Like that's the one thing you can say about Family Guy is that like everyone loves each other except for Meg. But even Meg has this rare episodes where there's like, oh, Meg, you're not so bad,
right?
But like that's the core tenet, because these guys just hated themselves or hated each other. It was just like, well, why should I care?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Speaking of characters who seem to not like each other. And had little irredeemable qualities. I want to transition over to Tripping the Rift. Now this
I'm very confused made it on this review because it is a solid piece of work.
Okay, so let's...
Here's the divide. I think Sean and I were both very much divided on this show. Sean, did you tell these guys about the dip?
No, I have not explained the dip.
Okay, have you guys seen Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Yes.
So Judge Doom has this barrel of dip that he will dip a cartoon into, and it'll pretty much like erase him from existence, right?
Yeah.
So we do that on this show. At the end, if we recommend a show, great. We can also not recommend it, but it still exists. Or we can not recommend it and then dip it, which means we erase it from our memories, from all existence, for all time. I'm pretty sure, Sean, did you want to dip this show?
I dipped Crash Canyon, and I also dipped Tripping the Rift.
I thought you did, and I saved it, so we did not dip that one because I actually appreciated how far they were kind of going with things, even if I thought it was definitely stepping over the line a few times.
Carson, why don't you explain why you loved?
Right. Why did you love Tripping the Rift? This is what we want to glean from.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I watched this cartoon at an age where I don't remember the title. Like you said, Tripping the Rift, that did not ring any bells. Then you explained the characters, and I went, wait a second. I know this. I have vague memories of this.
And just to be very clear, I explained to you Chode McBlob and a big-breasted sex robot named Six.
Yes.
And that's all that was required for Carson to be like, oh yeah, that show. Loved it.
Loved it. Loved that show. Yeah. I don't remember any of the plot lines. I don't remember anything about it. All I remember is the character dynamic of just Chode being a fucking asshole, and just trying to articulate like setups so that he could see this sex robot naked or like have sex with her or something like that. And as like a young horny teen, I was like, yo, this guy's smart. This guy knows how to get it done.
Oh, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'm also just like, I watched a bunch of Star Trek. I like everything sci-fi. I was like, that's my stuff. So like a comedy cartoon sci-fi, I was like, oh, this is up my alley. Like, it's great.
Okay.
So, because they also had plots, I remember, that they would like get stuck in places and they'd be like, how do we get out of this like organic ship that's like trying to eat us? And then like at some point they'd like figure it out, but the whole way Cho is trying to bang the robot. So it's like, it like hit both my loves.
Yeah.
Well, I want to ask then, were there any particular moments, Carson, that you felt, because my impression of this show is that it's very offensive without being funny.
Mm-hmm.
There were moments where they were really railing against people's beliefs in organized religion, which I have no problem with, but there were a lot of times where they seemed to, like, the punchline of their joke was, gay people are gay. And to me, that's not a punchline. That's kind of offensive.
Right.
And it just, watching this show, you know, there were fun moments. Like, what was the name of the planet, Dave, that they were on?
Oh man, it was something like
was it Paradise Heaven?
It's like Fabulous Heaven, I think.
Fabulous Heaven.
And it had rings around the planet that were rainbow colored.
Right. And so they have all this interesting stuff that's kind of like set up in there, but then they get to the planet and they're just like, ugh, these gay people are gay. And they flip it in a way that's fun, where all of the social constructs that we kind of put on people who are non-straight, like they flip them. And so like they're saying like, you know, it's not Adam and Eve, it's Adam and Steve. And so it's the reverse of all of the
Right.
stuff that we will say to be negative towards people of different sexualities. And so this show tries to do something, but then at the end, the punchline for them is gay people are weird.
Right.
And it just, do you have any experiences like
So
with any of the
weird.
things that I know, man?
Because I'm into that first idea.
Yeah. What's that? Movie where they flip the black and white roles or whatever.
Oh, White Man's Burden?
I don't remember. It doesn't matter.
White chicks.
Definitely white chicks.
Yeah.
White chicks are the Wayans brothers.
I mean, like, identity switching is always a great like setup for a movie. It's why body switch movies work so well.
That's why Face Off is excellent.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I just rewatched that.
Yeah. But as far as like context or like what was going on in the Canadian system, I don't know. I was like 10. I was like 12 or something like that. I watched this. All the stuff you just explained over my head.
Got
like
it.
dancing around, like making fun of gay people. I would have been like, this episode had like a lot of boobs in it. Like, you know what I mean? You would have missed it entirely.
I never watched Tripping the Rift like religiously or even like a full episode. I just always remember I would come home and you'd turn on TV and this was like probably Teletoon or something, I think it was on.
Right.
And you'd be flicking and it would be on and you'd watch it for a bit and I'd just be like, I have no context for anything. I don't know what's going on. One of the characters' voices is very annoying. And I'd watch it for a bit and I'd go, maybe if this was like 15 minutes, like it was like Aqua Teen Hunger Force, I maybe would have like stuck it out. But because it was like a full half hour, I don't think I ever had the patience for it.
Yeah. It's a hard one sometimes to get into, and then there are definite moments where it just sort of feels like the episode will plateau.
Oh, and
it's just like, oh, we're in a slow death crawl to the end of the 23 minutes of this episode. Just like, please get there.
Well, for a long time, I thought that Tripping the Rift was actually called Xander Renegade Angel.
Oh, okay, that was on Adult Swim as well.
Swim. And I remember like being like, sometimes I'd watch that and I'd be like, this is so bizarre and crazy and I really enjoy it. And then I'd watch Tripping the Rift and I'd be like, well, this show is very tonally different.
I feel like the animation style was breaking through some barriers at the time. Like, I remember not seeing any other show that had like 3D animation.
Right.
Well, we should talk about some other 3D animation.
What a
we
great
have.
segue right there. You couldn't set it up better.
Carson's just serving up these underhand pitches to me so I can knock them out of the park.
Yeah.
He's an artisan.
Yeah.
So the final show that we watched this month was Monster by Mistake. Now, I know that Pete, I've had some commentary from you regarding that Canada really peaked when they released the show Reboot.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
I
that-
loved Reboot.
Reboot's so good.
A lot of people love Reboot. Now, there is, and we have to say this, there is some jankiness with the Reboot animation, but it is
Yeah.
nothing it's nothing by comparison to what we saw with Monster by Mistake. Now, you guys both have some memories of Monster by Mistake, correct?
Well,
Pete, do you wanna kind of guide us through some of your memories?
Okay, so I mean, this is definitely like an uncanny valley issue.
Right.
The animation.
That's a
like,
great use of that word.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. It because like Reboot, I think it's aged okay because they're not humans; they're humanoid, but they're the colors are different.
Sure.
This show, even back then, I remember watching it. This was a show that was so cheap that there was no. The kids are always running. It's always like, I'm turned into a monster. I sneezed. I turned into a monster, and then they'd be running around this town, and there's nothing there. There's nobody just walking, unless it's important to the plot line. There's no kids walking in the streets or birds flying above, like because they just couldn't afford it.
Or it's like a Truman Show.
Yeah, it's like a Truman Show, and they're just like, oh yeah, no, this kid has body dysmorphia, and this girl is just going along with it. Like, yeah, okay. And so they're just like, it's such a bizarre show. I remember again, it was another case of like these kids just. The voices on these kids were terrible, and yeah, and I just remember there being like it's like it's like the Very Odd Parents were like that. There's that one guy trying to catch the monster, and
right?
No one else believes him. And yeah, it was just a whole bunch of tropes kind of thrown in there. But the animation is the big takeaway from this, because my God, is it bad? Hands are like. I mean,
we talked about the wrists not being able to really like as they were talking they would gesture and it was like their wrists would bend in like an unfortunate and like impossible position,
right?
And then the fact that like our eyes are oval, kind of almond shaped to begin with,
horizontally,
but they're horizontal. Their eyes are oval vertically, and they were unable to, in some way, in the Houdini engine that they were using to render all the animation, they were unable to sync the blinking between the eyes, and it was so upsetting to watch.
Yeah,
like the real monsters are the animators,
right?
And this was Monster by Intent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
is what this created.
I don't really remember this show too deeply. I just remember the animation, honestly. Like I don't remember like it being bad because I was so young, but I just remember.
Rub it in, man. I get it. You got youth on your side.
Yeah,
I'm 86.
Aged a lot in this episode. But I just remember them running around and it feeling like there wasn't a proper amount of gravity like in their steps, and like their arms and stuff were like noodles. Yeah.
We've had a lot of comment on noodle-armed animation, so that is fantastic, Carson. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm very interested. Like, do you guys judge, like, doing these Canadian, watching all these Canadian, are you guys judging us?
I'm less judging you guys, and just, we always rip apart cartoons, no matter what, where they come from, what it is. What I really wanted to know with these particular cartoons, was there anything, like, inherently Canadian about any of them? I know that Crash Canyon, made by a bunch of Canadian expatriates who were living in LA, I think, at the time. And you guys obviously know more than I do. But I thought the idea was to cram in jokes, like references to, like, what, Tim Hortons, or does anything, like, north of the border that, like, expatriates might get, but American audiences or other audiences might not. Is there anything like that popped up for you guys?
Not really. I mean, like, the most was, like, Crash Canyon tended to have the most Canadian references in it. Mostly just because it was supposed to take place in Canada. But you would not know that, with the exception of like I think in the opening scenes, it's like, oh no, I'm at Timmy's and stuff. But for the most part, no, it wasn't. We don't. The thing about Canada is unless we have to, you'd never know it was made in Canada.
Mm-hmm. In fact, they go to great lengths to make it seem like it's not made in Canada.
Yeah.
Like they'll if they're doing an outside shot. And it's like a downtown area, they'll like replace all the cabs with New York yellow cabs. Mm-hmm. They'll like change the street names. They'll make sure there's no like streetcars going around in the background, because those things are like so distinctively like Toronto that they they don't want it to look like Canadian. If you're ever auditioned for a part, they ask you to do like a general American accent because they don't want people to say raccoons. They want them to say raccoons.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Unless, of course, you are the live action comedy show Letterkenny,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
and
Yes.
then they 100% want you to play into those tropes.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Corner Gas,
A Little Mosque on the
Little
Prairie.
Mosque on the Prairie.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are like Canada shows made for Canada because Canada said we're not going to give funding to the arts unless you make Canadian shows.
Right.
But I mean, and it's it's the weirdest thing in Canada, just because we have so many talented people, and we have the industry, like the animation industry in Canada is huge.
A ton of American stuff is made in Canada.
So many kids shows, Max and Ruby, that one, the Spider Mother, which sounds horrifying when I say it like that, but trust me, it's good. It's a kid show. I watch it with my
Odd Squad is made in Canada.
Odd Squad, yeah. So it's
Shadow Hunters is made in Canada.
Yeah.
Rain is made in Canada. Supernatural. You guys watch that?
was it on BC?
That's shot in BC. Yeah.
Yeah.
None of these are cartoons, so
Yeah.
very applicable.
Right,
to this
right.
podcast.
But like kids cartoon, like the cartoon industry is huge, and so the fact that we're not actually like creating our own content and pushing, even if it had to be about the Canadian identity, I think I'd be okay watching it.
Mm-hmm. Well, the problem with me is that whenever it's like we got to make this about Canada, is they shoehorn so much Canada in.
Yeah,
and it's never like hey, this is just a story happening in Canada.
Right.
It's like this story is happening because it's in Canada,
right.
which I find is dumb.
And truthfully, I'll throw this out there. Canada, for the most part, there's not like we're not the cliches you guys think about. Yes, we all wear jean jackets, but that's just fashion, man. But otherwise, like everything that you guys, like, we're so Americanized. You know, like all of our references are the same as yours, with the exception of like Letterkenny.
Okay. Fair enough. And I will say, if anybody has not seen the show Letterkenny, it actually makes me want to watch more Canadian specific media and television programming, because it's the writing is so smart, it's so quick, it's so snappy. It's, again, as we mentioned with all the cartoons that we've watched this month, the jokes hit. The jokes are funny. And I don't have to understand 100% of the cultural references that are behind it. It's just like the cadence of some of the characters that are in there and just how they act and the reactions are just spot on. But again, it's live action. It's not animation. So so we have some challenges with that. So Dave, did you have an opportunity to ask your question that I know that you wanted to ask?
Oh, no, it's fine. I just really want to know about kind of if we were missing any overt Canadian cultural references that maybe we were too harsh on a particular show because we didn't understand it. I was really just looking for any excuse to give these cartoons the benefit of the doubt, because it was a rough month for us.
No, not really.
That's a shame.
I mean,
Chode McBlob is based on Justin Trudeau.
Yeah. That's what
that actually makes more sense. Yeah.
Luxurious hair.
Just the tentacles.
Just the tentacles.
The weird tentacles.
No, yeah, I really wish I could give you a thing where it's like, no, to understand the true Canadian identity, one must really go to Trash Canyon.
Well, I think that you actually can now help us with understanding some of these things, because the final question that we have for the both of you is, and as you said, I know that there's a lot of American references that you guys have in Canada, and that, obviously we've been friends for the past 3 years, and, I've never really noticed anything inherently Canadian about you, other than the fact that like I always see Pete wearing jean jackets.
I'm a fashionable guy,
nonstop. And again, that's just good fashion. So the big thing about this is that we want to know is that what cartoons, and I'll start with Carson, what cartoons did you guys watch when you were growing up? What were the cartoons that you watched on Saturday mornings or after school Sundays that were important to you?
I watched Pokemon. I rushed home after school to watch Pokemon at like 3:40 or 4 o'clock when it started. I loved Dragon Ball Z. It was so frustrating because every time a new episode would come out, they'd start the series from the beginning and play up to that point.
We have the same exact problem.
Oh my God.
I hit the same problem when I was watching it.
What else did I watch? Simpsons a ton. South Park. South Park was fresh when I was growing up.
Still fresh, man. It's a great show.
Yeah. I can't think of anything else right now. That's come on the spot. Pete, you go if you say something. Mike.
Okay, so I've thought about this. One, if you haven't watched Rocket Robin Hood, I think it's been recommended.
I mean, it's been recommended, so it's on the list.
Yeah, it's a very old one. I think it's done in the 60s. It's done by the same company that did the Spider-Man.
Oh no!
And it's all the same voices, and they reuse so much footage.
That's when we did the 60s Spider-Man. That was one of the things, was the Rocket Robin Hood that they mentioned, and so we know that like towards the end of the Spider-Man series, like in season 3 of it, is when it sort of transitions over to a lot of stuff. And we watched one of those episodes, and it was unreal crazy town.
Yeah. So yeah, Rocket Robin Hood was an interesting show. I remember just really liking it as a kid.
Okay.
But I even when I was a kid, it was old. And so I was still like, oh, I'm rolling my eyes. But
yeah, but you're like 104 people.
Yeah. My bones. So that was one. There was another one called My Pet Monster.
Yes.
And I feel like it must have been
I
American.
love My Pet Monster, by the way.
Me too.
Love it.
Theme song was great. Yep. I remember there being an episode where they actually go into Monster World.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they go into Monster World and they meet 3 small monsters who were just each one like was a different color, and I'm like, I know this is just a sell
100%.
toy.
100%.
Yeah.
But like I was like, oh, the blue one can swim in lava.
What?
You
I
know,
didn't
like
know
it was
that.
just like, yeah, the red one can dig really well. Like it was like each one had like a thing.
I remember watching the live action
Yes.
movie that they had.
They had
with
a
it.
live
They had
action.
a
Oh my
live
God,
action
yeah.
movie
You need
too.
to watch that
Yeah.
right now. I don't care what else you're doing today.
It's
Just go
so
watch that
good.
right
Yeah,
now.
yeah. I will do that.
Not to mention that if you bought the toy, it had the orange like shackles
Shackles,
and you
yeah.
could put them on your wrists and then break them.
Oh, that's so cool.
you felt like a
Best.
Hulk.
This is
Yeah,
like my
yeah.
nostalgia moment for the day right now. I'm like
Oh, good.
tingling with anticipation for My Pet Monster. Love it.
I really loved. Yeah, My Pet Monster was like, it was key. And there's another one, and I don't know if you guys will, if it was American or Canadian. It was called Denver the Last Dinosaur.
Already done it. Love it.
Okay, all right.
It's in our
He's
it's
my
in our
friend and a whole
dinosaur
lot more.
cartoon
Yeah.
suite. Yeah.
Yeah. I just remember that it just had the best theme song, and it was yeah. It was good times. And also, I'm sure you guys haven't done it yet, but Star Wars droids.
We have.
You've done that, and
done droids.
and Ewoks.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did.
Did
Ewoks,
we do Ewoks?
Is that one of the ones that? Because we saved a couple to be able to do for The Last Jedi.
Oh, okay.
Leading up at the end of the year, so there's the possibility that if we have not done Ewoks, then we will be doing them soon.
I think
Okay,
I think we only did droids, and then we did the animated part of the Christmas special.
Yeah, that's it.
I don't think we did
Okay.
Ewoks yet.
Yeah, Ewoks. So there was like a block of like late afternoon cartoons.
Okay.
And so they would like where they would replay the stuff that you missed in the morning if you didn't wake up early enough. So that's when I would watch, like, it was like Droids, Star Wars, Denver the Last Dinosaur, My Pet Monster.
Got it.
So you said some stuff that like hit some
Jogged it?
of my memories. I watched Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Oh, Rocky Bullwinkle was great.
Yeah. That never like hit for me, but I remember there being like a spin-off show or something like that where Rocky and Bullwinkle hosted a race and they had a bunch
Wacky
of
races.
Was that
Is
it?
it Wacky Racers?
Or-
Wacky Races, yeah, that was it. That was totally it. And they'd have like a bunch of different characters from like other animated stuff,
Right.
and they would race, and they'd all have their own cars that like did something.
Right.
And then, like, you know, it would always be like a villain would get up way ahead or take a shortcut and set up a trap, and it wouldn't go the right way or whatever. Like, that show was so good to me. I don't think there was any ever any plot. It was just like they were racing.
It's racing.
And, yeah, it was like an animated race, which is like the worst kind of a show.
Was that the one with like Snidely and Whiplash? Like the dogs?
Snidely Whiplash.
Snidely
Well, Muttley was the
Muttley,
dog.
Muttley,
he,
that's it.
he always like laughed.
We all just did the same thing with our shoulders. Yeah, Wacky Races.
Yeah.
And then there was a Starship Troopers animated thing that like
It was computer animated though.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
I
was,
remember
like,
that.
3D animated. Yeah, and I
Mhm.
remember that show being really cool.
Yeah, I think
I would like to learn more.
Yeah,
I think it was called like Starship Troopers like Marines or something.
Got it.
right. Yeah, but it had like all the main characters. Like it had Dizzy and.
Oh,
and
did
then-
it?
I'm pretty sure it did. Maybe I'm wrong.
That sucker is
Casper
still
Van Dien.
going. They just had
Yeah.
another animated movie come out this year.
for Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, Mission to Mars or something like that.
Well, that's getting a lot closer.
I mean,
Starship Troopers was like in an alternate solar system, and now it's at Mars.
Yeah, it's coming.
So the bugs are winning. They're getting closer.
Clandathu is getting closer and closer to domination.
Yeah.
From all accounts of the book, the 3 live-action movies that they've made, and the half a dozen animated movies that they've made.
They are milking that thing for everything it's worth.
Oh man,
good for them.
I'm surprised that Casper Van Dien hasn't been like, you know what? Let's just get The Rock in this, and let's make another 10 of these.
Yeah. That's how you do it. That's how you get those Fast and Furious franchises.
You know what's silly about the Starship Troopers thing is that they really, honestly, they rely so heavily on the Queen mentally controls everything else kind of thing. When it's like, that's not how bugs work, man. It's like there's a queen and she pumps out babies and everything else just works biologically. You know what I mean? So
I think some of it's conditioning, and I think some of it's environment. And biology that's passed on from generation to generation, but a lot of that has to do with her pheromones and hormones that she secretes that sort of have that mind control. We think of it as mind control because in terms of movies, it's the easiest way for us to be like, you go do this thing. I've controlled your mind. Yeah. But they're reacting to environments and things that they're in front of them. Yeah. And they're using whatever the generational knowledge that they have that's been passed on to them biologically to be able to adapt.
Right.
Thank you for listening to the Entomology Hour of Saturday morning. Now you mentioned The Rock. Who is the Canadian Rock?
Justin Trudeau.
The Rock?
Is there a Canadian Rock?
Did I mention The Rock?
You mentioned The Rock, yeah.
When?
When you were saying that. You said that.
I mentioned The
Rock. Sean did.
Sorry.
But is there a Canadian Rock?
Like a surefire.
Like an action star, a go-to guy, a franchise maker.
You put him in this show, and it's a guaranteed success.
Seth Rogen.
Seth Rogen, the Canadian Rock. I like it.
Yeah, he's Canadian.
Yeah.
I mean,
Jim Carrey. We only produce comedians. It's too cold to work out with.
Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds, that's true.
But as for just for Canadian content, if there's one person that Kevin Vidal, right now blowing up, man.
Okay.
And you put him in your show, guaranteed to be good. He's fantastic.
Nice.
Man.
Check him out, guys. Kevin Vidal. You'll hear about him soon.
Kevin Vidal.
Ryan Reynolds is Canadian.
Yeah.
And he's Deadpool. There you go.
Yeah.
We get Deadpool.
Nice. He's doing a great job with everything he's been in, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Wolverine, Hugh Jackman, Australian, part of the Commonwealth. You guys aren't. Sorry. Sorry. And Teddy Ruxpin. Guys, you guys should really do Teddy Ruxpin if you haven't yet.
Wait, was that an animated series too? I mean, I just remember the doll.
There was the Adventures of Teddy Ruxpin.
No. But it had a storyline. It had a storyline and a wrapped up.
What? All right. That's on the list.
It's like... Yeah.
your qualifications for good is that it had a storyline that had a conclusion.
Look, man,
that's how
our category for this show is just if it existed, we'll cover it pretty much.
Right.
Did you guys? I don't know if this is a recent one, and I don't think you guys would do on the show, but do you guys like Lupin the Third?
They're actually bringing Castle of Cagliostro. Miyazaki was that Miyazaki's first?
Yeah, it's Miyazaki.
They're bringing that back out into theaters through Fathom Events, and I want to say. Just through Fathom Events, I forget who the distributor is, but yeah.
Well, if you guys are looking for a good anime series to watch, the Fujiko Mine series, if you haven't watched it, is fantastic. It was released 3-4 years ago.
Cool.
And it's beautiful, beautiful series.
You know what I can't believe they haven't made yet? A Harry Potter animated.
There are so many things out there that I have no idea why they're not animated series.
Right.
We talk about that all the time. Pixar has never made an animated series from any of their stuff. Even there's no Minions animated series, even though that thing is worth it just crossed $1 billion again. It's weird the stuff they haven't made animated series, but
bizarre.
I want to thank the both of you, Carson and Pete, for coming on today.
Well, thanks for having
Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Guess what? You have the incredible distinction of being our second international cartoon coverage, but the first international audience we've actually had on this show. The North Koreans have yet to answer our invitations. So
we have sent a lot of letters,
and that will repair a lot of bridges.
I think so.
this podcast, and Dennis Rodman.
Yeah, that's all you need.
Fine.
Trying to be ambassadors as much as possible. So I wanted to ask you guys, thank you guys both for coming on. And then Carson, I wanted to ask if the good folks who are listening would like to catch up with you or find you on social media, where could they find you?
Yeah, so I live at 1616.
Let's not do that.
Okay. All right. Well, if you don't want to visit me in person, you can follow me on Twitter at Carson_Gale. If enough of you guys follow me, then I can get verified, and that's my dream.
Fair enough. Thank you, Carson. Pete, what
I'm
are you up to?
already verified. My name's Pete DeCourcy. You can find me. I'm not verified,
No,
guys.
it's not.
But how do you know unless you follow me? So it's at Pete DeCourcy on Twitter.
Okay.
And it's DeCourcy.
Awesome. All right, so thank you guys so much for coming on. Dave, thank you for being here as well. As always, of course.
Thanks, Dave.
And this is our first international companion episode.
Woo!
We did it. Guys, thank you very much, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.
Hey, everybody. Thanks a lot for listening to Saturday Morning Cartoons. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to transform and roll out.